So the other day I was just sitting at my desk, playing some Plants vs Zombies Game of the Year edition, and I realised, geez, I haven't fucking uploaded in like 2 months, and I've only made 2 videos. How lazy is that? Then all of a sudden, the ghost of content's present, it's Timmy himself, appeared in front of me and told me if I wanted to actually be good at YouTube, I should probably play a game that is a lot more popular right now. And I took his advice, and I decided to make a tier list. I deeply apologize for that. Anyway, getting into it, Ash, definitely fucking up there. Her ability allows the entire team to move into the battle, just to ambush someone, completely confuse their team, even just pick off one. The only problem is, in reality, it doesn't always work out that way. You see, it normally works out like when you take a condom to a pie. You normally expect to use it, you have such high hopes, everything to go well. But what happens is you walk in and there's only women, so you never use it. What I mean is, your team will never do exactly what you want them to do. Even if you're there over voice, you could say, look, I'm going to use this. They won't actually give a shit unless you're actually in like Predator or something. Then, you know, they might actually follow you, but who the fuck plays Ash in Predator? Bangalore's ability is okay, I guess. I mean, you just, essentially you fire a load of rockets in front of you in like a big line thing, I guess, in a way. Yeah, anyway, you get the point. Moves a bunch of people out of their positions, then they're out in the open, your team can hopefully capitalize on that. The only problem is it never normally gets any damage off, and the repositioning doesn't always work out, so it's kind of more like a solid B tier. Next up is Bloodhound. It's another B tier. It just gives you a lot more of your general passive info, and allows you to have a speed boost, so it's only really good for like trying to finish off a team that's trying to run. You could also have a running brace with an Octane, although you'll probably still lose. Gonna go with another B tier. His ability is amazing at putting people out of position. Only problem is it only really works indoors. It doesn't cover a large area, but indoors it will make a lot of people panic and run. Outdoors, the area is just not quite enough. Next up is Gibby in A tier. Gibby's a bit like Jesus. He's amazingly good, but no one wants to be him. For some reason people don't find him very fun, but all his abilities are pretty fucking good. His ultimate is definitely A tier. I think of his ultimate as the outdoor use of Caustic's ability, except there's a lot more outdoors than there is indoors, especially in those late game scenarios. Does a hell of a lot more damage too, and has an arc star effect on the enemies. Crypto, I'm gonna say, is another A tier ability. It does nice damage to shields, has an arc star effect which can be amazing if your team is able to capitalize on that. The only problem is it's kind of hard to pull off, because generally you'd have to be far away to hit them, not yourself, and your drone can be shot and your teammates could be unaware if you're not communicating properly. User's ability is definitely more of a C tier. The circle doesn't actually like work as intended a lot of the time, and there's a hole. And movement legends can generally just get out of it easily, like Pathy. Horizons is another A tier. Not because of the actual black hole ability itself, but because of the absolute hysteria it causes. In lower level lobbies, people will just freak out, they won't know what to do, their aim just seems to go off, and they just seem to get fucking slaughtered. Higher tier lobbies, it is a little bit worse, but it still serves as a great distraction. Lifeline is like the middle child. Daddy Respawn just keeps on ignoring her needs. She's a fucking D tier. Her ability is arguably one of the worst in the game. Only in the early game will the items actually be useful, and a lot of the time you've already found the items that will give you like a purple Evo shield. Could argue it's a much worse version of Loba's ability. Sometimes, sure, it could be nice to give you some cover in the late game, but generally it will just show all the teams where you are and you'll just get pounced on, especially in higher lobbies. Loba, I'm going to say, is an A tier. Loba's ability allows you to carry a lot more grenades and meds as opposed to ammo, because it's so much easier to find ammo in the environment. It also allows you to take more unforgiving weapons when it comes to ammo type, like snipers and energy weapons, where you generally won't come across much ammo for those weapons. It's really nice to be able to switch up the playstyle, use different weapons, and for that I find Loba's ability to be extremely fun. It also allows you to completely fill up your attachments much quicker with much better items, which can sometimes be a massive pain in the ass. Mad Maggie, D tier. I don't know what they were thinking with Maggie, if I'm honest. Maggie's whole kit is a bit weird, but her ultimate is definitely the worst part of it. The only use I see for Maggie's ability is just to get into the fight quicker. If you try and do any damage with it, or try and get any of the other effects with it, it hardly ever works out. it just bounces off them or bounces near them, and people can move out of its way really easily. It's just nice to try and ambush people, but people obviously know that you're coming because they can hear the ball bouncing and making noise. The only time it ever really works out well is if you launch it inside and it's got the ability to bounce onto the enemies a lot more, but then you can hit it onto yourself. Honestly, Maggie should just go and have a middle child party with Lifeline, since she's another legend that needs a serious rework. Mirage's ability is another A tier. Mirage's ability is definitely the best part of his kit. It allows him to completely confuse the enemies, even at high tier lobbies. It's especially confusing in close quarters combat, using shotguns and weaving in and out with all the other Mirages. To me, it also makes it the most fun ultimate in the game. Newcastle's ability is in B tier for me. It definitely is heavily reliant on the map that you're playing in. On some maps, it can be absolutely amazing, but on other maps like Olympus, where there's a lot of cover regardless of where you go, it's not going to be as good. The wide open area, obviously it's going to be amazing to create some cover for your team, but it is far too map dependent for me to be able to put it any higher than B. Octane is another A tier for me. They got Octane's ability idea from a kid's pie. The devs absolutely love the trampoline. Only problem was the kids were a bigger fan of Mummy's knives. It's a multiple use team positioning ability. The reason that it's A tier is because compared to Ash's, it's not quite as good. Ash's ability gives you invulnerability and allows you to go much further. The only upside to Octane's ability is that it lasts forever. Pathy's is definitely a C tier. It's another team positioning tool, but you're a lot more vulnerable when you use it. And you can only go from A to B after you've placed it. Whereas compared to the other team positioning tools, it is definitely the worst in the game right now. Rampart's ability to me is definitely low A tier. Using the minigun feels absolutely amazing. You're able to destroy doors, do massive damage to the enemies. The only downside is the wind up time, and if the enemies decide to focus you, you're normally going to die before the wind up time is over. But luckily, if the enemies see a different person instead and start attacking them first, you're normally going to have enough time to absolutely melt them. Revenant's ultimate is another B tier for me. Although it's really good to have death protection, it's really easy to find the tome because it's really loud and really big. You can either get destroyed or get camped most of the time, unless you're bringing another legend with a team positioning ability to allow you to place the totem far away and then get into the action. Seer's ultimate to me is the absolute best ultimate in the game. I know a lot of people won't agree with me, but a Seer ultimate generally has the potential to shut down an entire area because enemies will be too afraid to move or run around. Sure, the drone that creates it can be shot. If you're able to put it in a very good strategic place, it won't get destroyed at all. And it's a really amazing ability in the final few zones and in indoor areas. Valkyrie's ability is another amazing S tier ability. It's another team positioning tool, but works very differently to the other existing team positioning tools. Really good to get yourself across the map onto a high ground position or anywhere that's going to be useful in the next few zones. The only downside is you are a little bit vulnerable while in the air, but normally you can move around enough to avoid those bullets. Wattson's ability is a low C tier for me. Although it helps recharge your pylons a lot faster and has ordnance defense, the pylon recharge speed is nice, but I wouldn't exactly say necessary. The nade destruction is also quite nice, but a lot of the time the enemies see there's a Wattson, they just won't throw any grenades in there in the first place. Finally, everybody's favourite sweat lord is Wraith. Another team position ability, as if the game doesn't already have enough of those. Wraith's ultimate is quite slow to set up, and enemies can come in it as well, which makes it not anywhere near as good as Valkyrie or Ash's or Octane's ability. It does at least have an invulnerability aspect to it. As we're all aware, that's really not the strongest part of her kit. You know, if today's taught me anything, it's how weird it is to edit your own voice for hours. Let me know what you guys think. Am I just some idiot that hasn't fully figured out Mad Maggie's full potential? Depending on what your guys' reaction is to this video, it could be more like this in the future. Maybe I'll do a passives edition or tactical ability, or just anything else. Please do consider subscribing. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye bye.